when all of a sudden I hear tapping on the microphone. A senior-aged woman up at the mic, just like to say that this was the...
Hi, this is Peter Heller. We're here today with another episode of Outrageous Fortune, where we ask fundraising and nonprofit professionals to tell us outrageous stories about fundraising. Today, I'm with Karen Bloom and Rachel Lebofsky. Karen, tell us a little bit about your business.
Terrific. So, Peter, Rachel and I started Fund Up 1 year ago, and we help nonprofits find and raise more money, basically.
Fabulous, and you've been doing that very successfully with me and a few of our shared clients.
Yes.
So thank you for that. What were you both doing before?
We worked for many years at various nonprofit organizations, twice with each other, doing everything from development to marketing to public relations, events, you name it. So we really had a wide breadth of experience in all these different organizations and decided to go off on our own and do it ourselves.
Care to say the names of any of those, or those kept confidential for
no, I can share.
We should protect some. No, just kidding. Project Kesher, which worked with projects and programs overseas in Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, Moldova, and in Israel. And we worked with World Aud and Aud America, and that is also worked mostly overseas with some presence in America, doing schools and training programs for people in need.
Fabulous.
Yeah, and I also worked at the American Jewish Historical Society for a few years, which really captured the story of the American Jewish presence here in the United States.
Rachel, I understand you have an outrageous fundraising story for us.
Yes, I'm excited to share. So I was staffing an event for an organization that I worked for, and it was a luncheon. And
probably a nameless organization.
A nameless organization, yes, although we just shared some of the organizations.
Well, it wasn't one of those.
It was not one of those.
It wasn't one of those.
So it was a luncheon, and it was really a cultivation luncheon, and it was for donors to this organization who give it a particular level, and it was really an opportunity to thank them for their support, and many of them were long-standing members of this organization. And one of the highlights of the event was that the national president was speaking that day, which was a big deal for the national president to travel around and to meet with various groups.
How many people would you say were at the luncheon?
Yeah, I would say there were about 75 people at this luncheon. And so the program was going incredibly well, and it was time for the president to speak, and she went up to the podium and she spoke, and I think she did a very good job. She spoke powerfully about the organization and all that it accomplishes. So all accomplished. After she spoke, the chair of the event was beaming, and it was the moment where she goes up and thanks the president for her remarks. And after that, invited the group to enjoy their dessert.
We've all been there.
We've all been there, right?
Very
nice. Enjoying the dessert.
Yes, that's
nice
right.
Event.
Yes.
Everybody seemed very happy. So I was at the back of the room, just mingling with people, networking with the different donors, when all of a sudden I hear tapping on the microphone.
Up on the podium.
That's right. On the podium, on the mic, I hear tapping, and I look up to see a woman, a senior-aged woman up at the mic, and I had a little moment of took a breath, because we typically like everything very planned. There's very little spontaneity that we appreciate.
Planned spontaneity.
Wait a second. Wait, are you a fundraiser? I've never heard that from a fundraiser before.
Yes. So at this particular program, we pretty much had it all mapped out, and so this was unexpected. But there was a moment where we thought, okay, we do know who this is, and maybe this is a moment where she's going to take the mic and either say something to support the program, or maybe make an announcement about a special gift. It was unclear. And so, we're sort of waiting, and she looks at the audience and says, I would just like to say that this was the worst speech I've ever heard in my life. Yep. And I will never support this organization. All you do is ask for money, and I'm not going to give any more money. So at this point, I'm, I'm thinking fast on my feet. What do I do? So I go up to the mic and where the woman is, and I gently say to her, but firmly, why don't we talk about this offline? I understand you might have some things you would like to get off your chest, but maybe now is not the perfect moment for this. So I slowly take the mic, and she yanks it back, and she's not done. And she says, no, I just have to say these things because I'm tired of it. So I slowly take the mic again, and she puts it right back. And then, what do I do at this moment? I flip off the mic. So she continues for the next 20 seconds, probably ranting into the mic, but nobody can hear her. But I'm looking at the audience, and everyone's the mouths are ajar and eyes are wide. And she continues, and then she finally makes her way off the dais and back to her seat. Luckily, our president had a good sense of humor. So for many days and months after that, we would look at each other and say, that was the worst, no matter where we were. But it was definitely a first and hopefully a last. But I think, it teaches you, I think in our world, you got to be fast on your feet and be ready for those impromptu moments for sure.
And also bring a safe with you, so when the microphone's finished being used, you put it in the
That's
safe,
right.
you close the door, no one can get into it. Very important.
Yeah.
We learned that
Very important. Always shut off the mic after.
Shut off the mic.
Yeah, shut
No
off the mic
access
seems
to the
like
mic.
That seems like the main thing. And do you recall how long the event went on after that happened, and was it the rest of the event awkward, or did people kind of get over that?
Well, it was slightly awkward. I'm not gonna, for sure the moment when the woman stepped off the stage and the president was sitting in the audience having lunch with guests, I think there was a lot of, you were wonderful. This was really, but it was, and then people slowly just went back to the lunch. But it was, it certainly was, an interesting and awkward moment.
I just have one other thing I'd like to do with you today. My audience knows we play little goofy fundraising games from time to time. And today we have with us our hand puppets of Freud and his couch. Probably don't know that my grandmother was a psychoanalyst. So this is a long family tradition.
But it does explain a lot.
It explains a lot that years of therapy have not been able to take care of. So we like to do the Heller analysis of fundraising challenges. I want to put you on the spot for a minute, either of you. If there's some fundraising or consulting challenge that comes to mind, maybe Freud with his couch can see if we can solve your challenge.
Okay. Let's think about this.
Well, I have a client who is challenged about recognizing larger gifts publicly. And they feel that, understandably, that every gift is important. So how do you balance the concept, which we all agree every gift is important, with the concept of identifying lead gifts and acknowledging lead gifts in some way,
The importance of
different way?
public recognition.
This all goes back to your parents. I'm just trying to think of what Freud would say. So I think this is actually something
Is it gift envy?
I think it might be gift envy.
Gift envy.
Pledge envy. I think this is something we actually deal with sometimes with some of the organizations we've been working with together, where there's actually a fear of the large gift. Fear of large gift. This is actually a whole subject we can talk about.
Yes.
So, and what I mean by that is the inability to accept that certain people in the community can make large gifts, and that doesn't make the people who can't do that less valuable as human beings. And I find that can be a really hard hurdle to overcome, and that what I've seen work well is actually convening small groups of people within the community to talk about what money means to them, because it's often there's unresolved issues around money in the community.
I think that's true.
That Freud might advise
He might want that.
But I just want to thank you both for joining me here today.
Thank you.
Yep, Karen Bloom and Rachel Lebofsky from Fund Up, and this is Peter Heller with another edition of Outrageous Fortune.
Remember to like and subscribe. Click this link to get our free major gift tools. Do you have your own outrageous fundraising story? Share it on our blog.